In many countries, mobile phones are called cell phones. Is there a similarity between these cell phones and the living cells of our body? Although these phones do not have any biological association, they are called cell phone because of the meaning of the term cell. A cell means a small compartment. In case of mobile phones, the operator divides the regions into small areas called the cells. Each cell has a controlling tower that sends and receives signals as the phone is carried from one cell to another. Such network is called cellular network. Each cell here is the structural and functional unit of the cellular network. Cells of living beings are the smallest structural and functional units, with nuclei as their control centers. The cell is as fundamental to biology as the atom is to chemistry. Look at these two parts of our body. They have different structures and they perform different functions. In spite of structural and functional differences, both these organs are made up of the same fundamental units, the cells. We define cells as the structural and functional units of life. What do the terms?
We can say that cells are the structural and functional units of life. Is it clear?
Structural, functional, and units mean. A unit here means the smallest part that can be called living.
So what is the meaning of unit? Unit is the smallest part of a larger structure. Is it clear? Unit is the smallest part of a larger structure.
A cell is the simplest collection of matter that can live. If you further break down a cell, it loses all the characteristics of life. The word structural refers to the physical entity. Look at this room made up of walls. As you can see, bricks are the smallest structural components of this wall. In the same way, cells are the smallest building blocks of any living being. The word functional refers to life processes. We say that we can breathe, move, and grow. But what is it inside our body that is making it possible? It is the cells. All life processes that make us living are actually performed by the cells of our body. Viruses have complex biological molecules, but they are not considered living. This is because viruses can reproduce only when they are inside a living cell. Outside a cell, they are like any other non-living object. big is a cell? Let's look at the diversity found in cell sizes. If we start from a rice grain, which is a few millimeters in length, then an average amoeba is about 200 micrometers. A pollen grain is about 80 micrometers. A skin cell is about 30 micrometers. Our red blood cells about 10 micrometers. A yeast cell 5 and a bacterium as small as 1 micrometer in length. Viruses are even smaller than these. An ostrich's egg is the largest cell we know of, whereas bacterium mycoplasma is the smallest. Human nerve cells at over a meter long are the longest cells in our body. In plants, the green alga, Acetabularia, has the longest cell. Observe the difference in size between a blue whale, the largest animal on the earth, and an average human being. Are the cells of a blue whale larger than human cells? No. Larger animals do not have larger cells. Most cells are microscopic.
तो यहाँ से हमें सेल का एक और कैरेक्टरिस्टिक पता चलता है। क्या पता चलता है कि that cells are microscopic. It does not matter that कि कोई organism कितना large है size में, but जो आपके cells होते हैं वो क्या होते हैं microscopic. ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर organism आपका बड़ा है तो जो cells का size है cell का size भी बड़ा होगा या फिर उनके functions में variations होगी. तो जो आपके cells होते हैं cells are microscopic.
Even when you are looking through a microscope, it is difficult to distinguish between human cells and the cells of other animals. Why can't we have a few large cells rather than trillions of microscopic cells? As the size increases, the same amount of DNA in the nucleus cannot control all activities efficiently. Also, with increase in cell size, it is difficult to exchange material with the surroundings. Why is the shape of an umbrella the way it is, and not the other way? The shape of an object plays an important role in determining its function. The same is true for cells. Cells have diverse shapes that help them to perform diverse functions. Nerve cells are long and have branches so that they can relay messages faster and farther. The cylindrical shape of muscle cells helps them to carry out movements and locomotion. Xylem cells of plants are hard, rigid, long and hollow to provide support and transport for water. Red blood cells are disc-shaped to facilitate their movement through the blood vessels. Amoeba, on the other hand, is a single-celled animal that can constantly change its shape. Non-red blood blood cells are disc-shaped. There is a disease called sickle cell anemia in which the red blood cells are deformed. How would this affect the individual? Robert Hooke was a British natural philosopher who discovered cells in 1653.
So if I ask you who discovered cells, it was Robert Hooke that he discovered cells in 1653.
He observed thin cork sections under the microscope. He recorded his observations in his book, Micrographia. He described what he saw under the microscope as honeycomb-like structures with many boxes or compartments. He called these compartments the cells. Other major contributors in the early period of cell biology were 1670s, Anton van Leeuwenhoek created improved optical microscopes. In 1839, Jacob Schleiden and Theodor Schwann proposed the doctrine of cell theory. According to this, all living beings are made up of cells, and the cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living beings. Rudolf Virchow modified the doctrine in 1855 when he added omnicellular acellular, which means all cells arise from pre-existing cells.
What is the unit of life? Cell.
Cells have many different shapes and sizes, but at molecular and chemical level, all cells work in a similar manner. They all have a similar master plan or structural organization. To understand the structural organization of a cell, let's compare it with the structural organization of a country. A country has an identity because of its marked international boundary. Movement across this boundary is strictly regulated. In the same way, cells have a well-defined outer plasma membrane that controls the movement of substances across the cell. All of a country's external and internal activities are controlled by its government. Similarly, in a cell, the nucleus controls all processes. Different sectors, industries, and people are the components of a country that help in its sustenance. Cellular components, organic and inorganic material present in the cell, play a similar role inside the cell. This matrix is called the cytoplasm. So the three well-defined regions in the organization of a living cell are the outer plasma membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. All living cells are bounded by a living membrane called the plasma membrane or the cell membrane.
So what is plasma membrane? It is the outermost covering of all the living cells. You can see a boundary that is surrounding the cell C.
Electron microscopic studies have revealed that the plasma membrane is a flexible bilayer structure made up of lipids with protein molecules between them. It allows certain material to enter or exit the cell freely.
तो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन क्या करती है? कुछ मटेरियल्स को उनका इनफ्लो या फिर आउटफ्लो में हेल्प करती है, ठीक है? फ्री एंट्री ऑफ मॉलिक्यूल्स.
At the same time, it prevents the movement of many other molecules. Because of this property, the plasma membrane is said to be selectively permeable or semi-permeable.
तो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन को आप लोग क्या कह सकते हैं? सेलेक्टिवली परमेबल और सेमी परमेबल.
Can you think of a cell whose plasma membrane allows it to engulf all of the food material inside the cell?
So you have to name the cell whose cell membrane allows it to engulf the food and other materials. What will be the cell?
The answer is amoeba. And
See, amoeba क्या करता है? Amoeba की plasma membrane it helps it to engulf its food. See, amoeba engulf food by the process of phagocytosis. What is the name of the process by which amoeba engulf its food? Amoeba engulfs its food by the process of phagocytosis. See, the food is coming here. आप देखिए किस तरह से ये food engulf करता
this
है.
process is called phagocytosis. Some white blood cells in our body are also capable of this.
See, amoeba
In
की body
addition to the plasma,
अमीबा की बॉडी में प्रोजेक्शंस होती है जिसको उसने प्रोट्रूड करा और क्या करा, फूड को एंगल्फ कर दिया. ठीक है.
to our membrane, many cells also have a hard and rigid cell wall. It is located outside the plasma membrane. The presence of a cell wall is a defining characteristic of all plants, bacteria, and fungi. The chemical composition of cell wall varies among these groups. For example, in plant cells, the cell wall is mainly composed of a complex carbohydrate, cellulose. The cell wall is dead and allows free movement of any material across the cell. Cancer, HIV, and other significant threats to human health operate at the cellular level. For instance, a cancerous cell gets out of control and keeps dividing endlessly. This results in a tumor. The reasons behind cancers can be many, but the main problem is the lack of control. How do our cells know that it is time to grow, divide, breathe, or generate energy? Nucleus is the controlling center for all cellular activities. The nucleus is a spherical structure located generally in the center in the case of animal cells and towards the periphery in plant cells.
So in animal cell where is nucleus located, you have seen, and in case of plant cells, nucleus is located at the periphery. Is it clear?
A double membrane nuclear envelope with a large number of pores separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm. The nuclear envelope encloses the semi-fluid nucleoplasm containing many biomolecules. Material exchange between cytoplasm and nucleoplasm occurs via nuclear pores. Special chemicals from the nucleus signal the cell to stop or start a process. In the nucleoplasm lies the most important biological molecule, the DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid.
So what is this? This is DNA. It lies inside the nucleus.
DNA is the hereditary material for almost all living beings. So our resemblance to our parents and ancestors is because of this DNA. DNA is passed for the process of reproduction. This DNA, along with some special proteins, is present in the forms of tangled, fibrous, thread-like material called the chromatin. When the cell is about to divide, this chromatin material rearranges itself to form chromosomes. Every organism has a unique type and number of these chromosomes in its body cells. Attached to chromatin, there is a dense region called the nucleolus. This is rich in another biomolecule called ribonucleic acid.
This dense region that you can see here, this is nucleolus. It is rich in RNA, that is ribonucleic acid, and it helps in the formation of ribosomes.
Or RNA. It plays a vital role in the formation of ribosomes, a type of cell organelle. Bacteria do not have a true nucleus in their cells. Because of their primitive nuclei, they are categorized as prokaryotes.